It's so nice to be in a house after such a long time. Thank you, Pastor Leon, and the rest of the pastoral team for this opportunity to share. My name is Lara, and I have a confession to make. I love history. So bear with me as I share some what I find fascinating history about Canada. So we're going to be going over what I've entitled February and Forever, celebrating Canadian Black history, past, present, and every day. I'm hoping that together we'll learn some new things, celebrate some things in the past. Now, before we start, I'm just going to go to the beginning and just do a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are situated in the traditional territories of the Mississauga, the territory that is covered by the Williams Treaties. We are thankful for the opportunity to learn and fellowship on the land of the peoples of Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. This is not just a statement that we say before we start stuff. In the context of history, this is particularly important because all of our predecessors in Canada benefited from indigenous knowledge. We benefited from learning about medicine, food, and how to cope with the harsh winter that would have been the early frontiers of Canada. And as I'm going to be introducing you to the first person who is identified as the first Black and African man, free man, to visit and live in Canada. He, in particular, benefited from this cultural exchange. His name is Matthew de Costa. I say is because he's a living legend. So Matthew de Costa was born in what would have been modern-day Portugal in the Azores Islands. And he is believed to originally descend or have his ancestry from the Great Benin Kingdom in modern Nigeria. Are there Nigerians in the house? Come on. Or other people? Yes. I found that fascinating. I didn't know that piece. Now, what was important about Matthew de Costa, in addition to him, the fact that he was a free man, was the fact that he was a gifted and highly skilled interpreter. He was so skilled that countries fought over him. There's at least 2 lawsuits where they fought over who he could work for and who he couldn't work for. Matthew de Costa was particularly important historically because he helped with the early fur trade, which is how Canada the European interaction in Canada started was the fur trade. So the Acadian governor actually needed his help. And also important was Samuel de Champlain. Samuel de Champlain is who we call the father of New France, which we know now as Quebec. So before there was officially a Quebec, there was Matthew de Costa, who was the interpreter that helped the navigator, Samuel de Champlain, come into the land, make maps, speak with the indigenous people, learn about the food and the culture, and actually survive so that we could find modern-day Quebec. Now, I have to note that this also was how colonization happened, right? So part of what Matthew de Costa brought to the table was he spoke numerous languages. So he spoke Benin, he spoke Mi'kmaq, he spoke Basque, which is a combination of Spanish and Algonquin dialects. He spoke Portuguese, Dutch, and what we would know today as modern-day Creole. Isn't that amazing? Like one person. And off the coast of West Africa, historians still don't understand how he was so versatile in all those languages. Now, coming home to Oshawa, as Pastor Doug would say, our beautiful city of Oshawa. It was fascinating to learn about the Black history in Oshawa, that it actually goes really far back. So Oshawa was incorporated as a village in 1849. And I'm going to introduce you to the earliest known, I'm saying introduce, but some of you might already know about this family, to a 5-generation family that was actually here prior to the incorporation of the village of Oshawa. And we're also going to take a peep into the future to see if some of their footprints are still here. Are you still tracking with me, like Pastor Leon will say? So their names are the Andrews, the Dunbars, the Parkhurst family, and they were here officially from 1851 to 1983. We know that because of the survey. So there was a survey in 1851 that showed the family being here. So if I can have the genealogy, please. And this is their 5 generations. Special thanks to Rachel and my daughter Tenny for helping me put this together. We're going to get to meet each generation and just a little peek into their lives in Canada. So for the first generation, we're going to meet a lady called Welty. Can you imagine? Her name was Welty. Welty Dunbar Andrews. She's the matriarch of this family. She was born in 1875 in Vermont and got married. There's conflicting information. Some record says 1810, some record says 1821. So she got married to Peter Andrews, and this was an interracial union, which was quite uncommon for it to result in a marriage. Nonetheless, it happened, and they relocated to what we called Lower Canada, or modern-day Quebec. They stayed there for a while until, unfortunately, Peter passed away in 1843. It's believed that after Peter passed away, Wealthy and their 5 children relocated to Oshawa. And they were close friends with a particular founding family, the Cornets. It's believed that there is a familiar connection, but historians have not been able to ascertain it. So they moved in and contributed to the day-to-day development. This particular family was actually very close with the Henrys. I don't know if anyone has heard the name Henry in Oshawa, visited the Henry Heritage Building. They all lived together at that time. Now we get to meet the second generation. So we get to meet Mary Dunbar. Mary Dunbar, we're fortunate enough to have a picture. So Pastor, if I can have the next slide. Mary Dunbar was born in 1835 and lived until 1887. And all this information is available through the Oshawa Historical Society or the Oshawa Museum. Mary Dunbar married, wait for it, Judge Dunbar. They're not cousins, that's not her uncle, they just happen to have the same last name. He also emigrated from Quebec, originally Scottish, another interracial relationship, and he worked at the local flour mill, which at the time was the heart of the city, right? You need flour, you need water, you need maybe animals, and those were integral, and they contributed to Oshawa at the time. They had 5 children, and today we're going to delve into the next generation and look at one of their kids, who is Margaret. Record shows that they have other children. One son was a lawyer, and one other son was a laborer. We do not have record of what the women did at the time because it just wasn't recorded. So Margaret survived until old age. Now we get to meet the third generation. So this is Henry and Margaret's Pankhurst home. This was built in 1884. For a home this size in 1884, it shows that they were doing quite well. And they were actually in South Oshawa or Cedardale, which would have been a very prestigious part of town close to the lake. So around Erie Street and Simcoe is where that building would have been. This was a third generation interracial relationship. On a sad note, for Henry, his family disowned him when he married Margaret due to the racial difference, and communication was permanently cut off. We found this out through their grandson, Robert, several years later. So let's look and see the homestead now. So I went on Zolo and I actually found the house. It sold in 2021. I'm not going to say for how much. Do not go knocking on the door. But the house still stands, 1884. This is what a 138-year-old beauty looks like. Now, let's say hello to the fourth generation. So these are Margaret and Henry's children. The very first one, we have Albert. Albert fought during World War I. He was a decorated veteran. He was also a prisoner of war. He went out west prior to the war, served, and came back to Oshawa and married a local. They had 3 children, and they eventually moved to California. The Pankhurst dynasty, I'll call them dynasty, are still out in California. He was the only one of the 3 children that actually had kids of his own. Then he had 2 siblings, Ward and Greta. Ward and Greta both left us tangible reminders of themselves. So Greta made a donation to the Oshawa Museum that is on display every Christmas, and it gives us insight into historical records as well as the toys and what they valued at the time. So if at Christmas you ever want to meet this kind folks, go to the Oshawa Museum and you can get an introduction into the life of Greta. I'm just going to say a quick word about Ward. Ward was considered a very fun guy. He left a recording, an audio recording, so we actually have a recording of his voice, which is amazing. So the Oshawa Museum is currently transcribing that, and that would be made available in future. He worked at an iron mill that provided parts for the Ford company, but also he contributed to the war efforts. And I actually found that building. I don't know how many Long Oshawa residents are around. This is the former Nob Hill Farms. It's still the same building. And he said at the time that high school cost $1. I thought that was cute. Can you imagine? One thing Ward was known for was his sage advice and the fact that they consulted him on so many things. And he was able to share his life in Citadel, which is modern-day South Oshawa. So I want to just bring it together that Black history, somebody will be like, why are we doing this? Black history is Canadian history. Canadian history is richer when we actually delve into its diversity and its complexity and celebrate every aspect of that, from the mundane to the extravagantly excellent that the lives of these people have shown us. I'm sure they had no idea that maybe 200 years later, someone will be standing here talking about them. You know what they did? They lived their lives. They blessed others. They contributed to their society. And I just want to bring that to the house too, right? When we look at our flag, our diversity flag, the fact that it represents people from different countries, different cultures. And today I want to put a little spotlight on the aspect of the Black history right here at Embassy. I'm going to put a disclaimer that this is not all-inclusive. This is not everybody. If it doesn't belittle if something is not referenced or someone is not referenced, it does not belittle that. But I just want to encourage all of us, myself included, to pay attention to members of our church as well, and even ourselves to be that history in motion, right? To live our lives in such a way that we had value and that we leave this place better than we met it. So below is a little highlight. It's not an exhaustive list. Please, please do not be mad. I'm just going to mention some names of some people who over the years have been in this house, have had roots, and have contributed. So Mabel and Yvette Bussard Kelly, my kids call her Grandma Mabel, right? Shepard and Guy Jube, 11 years. Audit and Sean Karaseko, they've also been here for 11 years. Joan and Derek Jackson, they've been here for 14 years and also served in a community through their store. Shelley Grant, 16 years. Andrea and Patrick Smith. I know before COVID, I could always look over here and I would see them. Heather, who did the presentation last week, and Kenneth White, 20 years. Judy, my heart in particular thanks you because as a young adult, you made me feel welcome in this house. Judy Yearwood, who's been here for 21 years. So, Judy, thank you. Catherine and Ken Rudolfo, 21 years. Alina and Dalton Johnson, 24 years. The Ogunkoya family, who've also been here for 21 years. Carol Michael, I don't know if you're here. I'm just blowing kisses to you because I keep hearing wonderful things about your kids in the community. And every Christmas, they crack us up with those wonderful plays. Sherry and Don Forrester, thank you for 24 years. Emmanuel and Oyinda Amarawaye, I call these people my auntie and uncle. They've been here for 24 years, making changes. Dr. Emmanuel saving lives every single day. And last but definitely not the least, Batsrai and family. And I wrote infinity and beyond because he didn't give me how many years they've been here. So I want to just celebrate Black history, not just in Canada, in Oshawa, but also at Embassy. And just say thank you for the diversity you had. Thank you for belonging. Thank you for being here for such a long time and giving of yourself. You are loved and appreciated. So thank you so much. Now I'm going to just say, watch the video.